The Boston Harbor Islands are a collection of 13 beautiful islands, some of which are open to the public and are easily accessible from downtown Boston for a fun day trip. Nestled within the beautiful Boston Harbor, George's Island is a place steeped in history, featuring a captivating fort and surrounded by the sparkling waters of the Atlantic Ocean. It's a destination that promises not only breathtaking views, but also a journey back in time to uncover Boston's past. In this video, we'll tell you everything you need to know about visiting George's Island, including how to get there, things to do, and what to bring. We will start off our day with some breakfast. I would recommend stopping by Tradesman Coffee, which is less than a 10-minute walk from where the boat to George's Island departs. George's Island has very limited food available on the island, so be sure to grab a hearty breakfast and bring some lunch and snacks with you when you go. Tradesman Coffee is a swanky lounge turned coffee bar during the day with a vintage and rustic feel. It's a great spot when you want to really treat yourself to top-end coffee and pastries. They offer a terrific variety of breakfast baked goods, coffees, and drinks. We got their breakfast sandwich, a delightful cheddar and chive biscuit, delicious crispy bacon, Vermont cheddar, and a perfectly cooked fried egg topped with spinach and mayo. A perfect way to start your day. We also had to try their famous croissants. I had a very hard time choosing which to get since they all looked amazing. In the end, I decided to go for the strawberry croissant. It was flaky and buttery and filled with tons of sweet cream filling, and it was pretty amazing. Service was quick and there's lots of seating if you want to take your time to enjoy your breakfast. From here we'll make our way to Long Wharf to grab the ferry to George's Island. You can take a ferry for $25 round trip. The ferry runs from late May to early October, and the trip takes around 45 minutes one way. In the summer season, from mid-June to early September, there are ferries 3 times a day to get to the island and 3 times a day to get from the island back to Boston. The frequency may be reduced a bit on the off-seasons. You can check the ferry schedule on the website, which I linked in the description below. You can buy the tickets online, which is what I would recommend, but there is also a ticketing booth right by where the ferry leaves. You leave from Long Wharf in Boston, usually at Gate 5. If you can't find the gate, there are plenty of staff around whom you can ask for directions. The ferry service asks that visitors arrive 15 minutes early, but if you want to be among the first to board and have your top choice of seats, try to show up about 25 to 30 minutes early. The ferry is not usually super crowded though, so you will likely still be able to get a good seat even if you don't show up that early. Half of the fun of our George's Island excursion is the ferry ride, and you can get some amazing views of the Boston skyline. On the way to George's Island, try to get a seat in the back of the boat for the best views, and on the way back to Boston, grab a seat at the front. As the ferry moves towards George's Island, be sure to look back and snap a few photos of the Boston skyline from the water. The view is absolutely amazing. Boston Harbor is an active port with many different boats and ships passing by, so it's a great place to see various boats as well. During the ferry ride, you will also get to see some of the other harbor islands. After about 45 minutes, you will arrive to George's Island. Our first stop is the Visitor Center. The Visitor Center has some wall panels and artifacts that tell the story of Fort Warren and George's Island. My favorite exhibit displayed the kinds of meals offered at the fort depending on your rank and status. It must not have been so fun being a low-ranking officer, as the food looks pretty gross. There's also a short 10-minute documentary video that tells the history of George's Island with the benches in the viewing area. I would recommend watching the video so you can learn more about the place and if you need to use the bathroom, you can also do so at the visitor center. There are guided tours of the fort that typically start about 15 minutes after each ferry arrives on the island. These tours depart from the visitor center and last about 1 hour, so you can hop off the boat, watch the video, and then start the tour. On the tour, you will be guided by a park ranger and hear some stories about the fort and its history. Fort Warren on George's Island served as a Civil War-era fortress and prison. Now it is a National Historic Landmark and a major tourist destination. Fort Warren on George's Island in Boston was built by the Union during the American Civil War as a defensive structure. Construction of Fort Warren began in 1833 and was not completed until 1861. Unfortunately, by this time, the fortifications of Fort Warren were obsolete, rendering it useless for its intended purpose. As it was no longer suitable for its original purpose, Fort Warren went on to become a prison for Confederate prisoners of war as well as a training facility. During the World Wars, it served as a harbor defense and coastal surveillance post. Boston Harbor was a vital transportation hub and a potential target for enemy submarines and surface raiders. The fort's personnel were responsible for monitoring and defending against any potential threats. It was finally decommissioned in 1947. Today, Fort Warren is a National Historic Landmark and a major tourist attraction at Boston Harbor Islands. George's Island is visited by more than 100,000 people annually, including both tourists and locals. After you are done with the tour, you can venture on your own to explore the fort. As you walk through some dark rooms, be sure to keep an eye out for Fort Warren's most popular ghost, Melanie Lanier, also known as the Lady in Black. For generations, she has been seen by soldiers and tourists alike. The story of the Lady in Black begins in 1862 when the young newlywed got word that her husband, a Confederate officer, had been taken prisoner. A woman of action and courage, Melanie secured passage to Boston Harbor to rescue her husband. In the dark of the night, dressed as a man, she rowed alone across a mile of water, armed with a pistol and a pickaxe. Melanie found her husband in the dungeon, and together they began to enact their plan to escape Fort Warren. The young couple was successful in leaving the dungeon, running out of the cell towards freedom. Shortly before the pair made it to Melanie's rowboat, they were discovered by Union soldiers, and Melanie's husband died after she had mistaken him for a Union soldier and accidentally shot him. Melanie was then apprehended by the Union soldiers, and she was charged as a spy and sentenced to death by hanging. Melanie was hanged for her crimes at Fort Warren. The guilt from killing her husband would not allow her to rest in peace. Sorrowful and lonely, Melanie continues to walk the grounds of Fort Warren. In the many years since her death, she has returned again and again as the Lady in Black. All these ghost stories will probably make you feel hungry. If you get hungry, there's a small concession stand with reasonable enough prices. Everything is actually under $5. They sell Italian ices, hot dogs, and other small snacks. On the day we went, it was super hot, so the Italian ices were nice and refreshing. You can enjoy your snacks while also enjoying stellar views from the island. Now let's talk about things you should bring on your trip. Number 1 is food. There isn't much food available on the island, so be sure to pack some lunch and snacks. There is a concession stand on the boat and on George's Island where they sell light refreshments like chips and hot dogs, but they can run out of food towards the end of the day. Number 2 is a water bottle. There are drinking fountains on the island, but they're pretty spread out, so make sure to bring your own water as well. Number 3 is walking shoes. Parts of the fort are damp and slippery, and some areas are rocky. You don't need hiking boots, but you will definitely want to have comfortable walking shoes. You should also bring a flashlight. Parts of the fort are incredibly dim and dark. Your phone flashlight will work, but you may want a more powerful light if you plan to do extensive exploring. It'll also save your phone's battery life. Finally, you should bring some trash bags. There are no trash cans on George's Island, so make sure to bring your own trash bag to carry in and carry out. I would also recommend bringing sunscreen, sunglasses, a hat, and some bug spray. And now it's time to head back to Boston. You can board the ferry exactly where it dropped you off and enjoy the scenic 45-minute ride back to Boston. Exploring Fort Warren has been a truly fun experience. The history and stories that reside within these walls make George's Island an essential destination for history enthusiasts and curious travelers alike. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Fort Warren on George's Island. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below.